All right, good evening, everybody. We appreciate you coming out. Thank you for coming. Before we get started, I want to thank the Avon Lake Public Library for providing us this venue and hosting us. They always do a great job. We greatly appreciate the partnership that we have with the Avon Lake Library. In fact, 2 weeks from today, I'll be doing the State of the City address, same time, same day, same room. So if you're interested in coming back for that, that'd be great. But we want to thank the library for everything that they do to help provide these venues for us. So tonight's an informational presentation is being recorded and live streamed. So we do have people at home that are listening and watching to this, and I want to thank them for watching on their devices at home. I also want to introduce, we have, I believe, 3 council members here. We have Councilwoman Amy Gentry. We have Councilwoman Jennifer Fenderbosch. Did she come back in, or is she still greeting? There she is. And then we have Council President Jeff Smith as well. So thank you guys for coming. So today, here's our agenda. We're going to talk about this income tax increase that we're putting on the ballot in May. So we're going to talk about what our challenge is here in Avon Lake, what we're going to be putting on the ballot May 5th, 2026. We're going to talk about the data that will hopefully help you understand why we're asking for it. We're going to talk about issue 13, which is the actual ballot, and what does this mean for the taxpayers of Avon Lake, and what does it mean for improving roads within our community. And at the end of that, we'll have a question and answer period. When we get to the question and answer period, we ask everybody to come up to the mic because, again, this is being live streamed and recorded. We want to be able to have the audience out in there to be able to hear you. And if you could limit yourself to one question at this point, if we get through everybody that wants to speak, we can come back around again, but at least initially, let's limit it to one question. So we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask a question if they so desire. So, City Council voted unanimously to place a 5-year additional 0.4% municipal income tax on the May 5th ballot. And this is needed for road and capital improvements. Now, this was done after careful consideration and evaluation by the administration and council to make this very difficult decision. We never want to go to the voters and ask for more money, but the reality is we need additional revenue to continue our services. And we don't take that lightly. We know that that's a big ask, especially in this environment, and we understand that we all have budgets we have to live within as well. So what we're presenting today is just factual information so that you can at least make an educated decision when you get to the ballot. And then, of course, we'll answer some questions along the line, or at the end here, if anybody has those. So the greatest challenge ahead involves our aging infrastructure and our roadway system and essential capital that we have here in the city. So roads, stormwater systems, critical equipment requiring ongoing attention, all this so we can provide a safe, reliable, and cost-effective service for our community. So as you're probably aware, Avon Lake is one of the fastest growing cities in Lorain County. You all have hopefully chosen to live here because we have a great community, and we're proud to call Avon Lake our home. So most of you have chosen to live here, raise a family, because we have excellent schools, we have safe neighborhoods, we have strong public service, and we have historically low taxes. And as we go through this, you're going to understand that even if this is passed, we still will be one of the lower communities as far as income taxes. So, but like your households, right, we have to live within a budget. And because of the growth, we have a need for increased services. For example, because of the increase in our demand for services, we've had to hire additional personnel. For example, in the last few years, we've had to hire 6 additional firefighters. And that's in addition to what we had prior to. And the reason for that is increases in calls and increases for demand for services. Also, our population has went up 73% since 1990. I graduated in 1982. The population was almost exactly half of what it is today. So that growth has led to an increased need for safety and service personnel, particularly in the last few years. We are running kind of a deficit, falling behind, and again, the demand for services increases. In fact, when I get calls, I've never had anybody call me and demand less services, right? They usually call, they want more services or better services, but nobody's ever called and say, please provide less services, right? That just doesn't really happen. But rising costs means there's less money in the general fund to address road and capital needs, and we'll focus in on that in just a little bit. And of course, the miles of roadways in the city has increased as well. So the reason for the income tax increase is to raise funds to be dedicated specifically to our roads and other capital improvements. In 2025, for example, last year, we did some road work, and they were complete renovations of roadways. And we determined at that time, based upon that, 1 mile of roadway, which is basically electric to Walker Road, doesn't matter what street you take, electric to Walker, is about a mile. To redo that stretch of road is $4.1 million for that one stretch of 1 mile road. Roads are our number one capital need. We have 112 miles of roadway here on Avon Lake, and we currently have a backlog of road repairs that we need to do. And all of our infrastructure, like every other city, our infrastructure is aging, and we have to begin to address it a little bit more aggressively. So I'm going to turn it over to Finance Director Beth Krosse here. She's going to go through the next slides.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out tonight. I'm hoping that what we present here will leave you with the facts and a lot to consider as you think about this issue 13. And I wanted to start with what we have been able to do with the 1.5% income tax. In the past 5 years, we have been able to provide $35 million in capital improvements. And I'd like to share some of those improvements with you. The paving of Walker Road, and it's been phases 1 through this year. We're beginning phase 6 of Walker Road. And when you think about those costs that the mayor just mentioned on how much that costs to do that road, that's been a lot of road work that's taking place. And also, we've, of course, done ALPS phases 1 and 2, crack sealing, outfall rehabilitations, which is part of stormwater, which is part of our capital ask that is included in issue 13. So you can see the number of roads here that total $35 million that we have been able to do with that income tax. So historically, what Avon Lake has done is we have a little over $18 million projected to come in income tax for 2026. And we take that income tax and we allocate it to several funds. Of course, the first allocation goes to general fund, which is kind of the heartbeat of the city. That is where services are provided. Police, fire, public works, general administration of the city is all funded through general fund. And then income tax is also allocated to debt service. So the city does have a low ratio of debt, but there is approximately $2.6 million that is allocated for 2026 for debt service. Also, funds are allocated from income tax for the recreation fund. And in the past, there has also been funds allocated to the capital improvements fund. With the slides that I will show you about the financial state of the city, there are less dollars to allocate to capital funds. Last year, in 2025, we allocated about a little over $500,000. For 2026, we have $0 new dollars allocated for capital needs. We will be using the remaining balance, what remains in the capital fund, to finish some projects that we are committed to. If issue 13 passes, a dedicated capital fund will be established. That 0.4% increase will go specifically into that dedicated fund. A minimum of 65% will be used for roads, and a maximum of 35% will be used for stormwater and other capital needs such as vehicles and equipment, and also any associated debt with those new purchases or for those new roads. Okay.
So if I'm sitting in your seat, I'm saying, well, that's all great, but how are you trying to save money and not spend it? You know, what are you doing to try to bridge that funding gap? Well, here's some of the things that we are attempting to do. Reducing operating budgets and limiting overtime. So even though costs have went up and we have inflationary factors and we had a 3% increase, most of the collective bargaining agreements got a 3% increase, we actually reduced our operating budget from 25 to 26 by $575,000. So over a $500,000 reduction despite other increases. So we've done a pretty good job of limiting that budget. Another example is typically during leaf season, we would have our public service workers come in and do leaf pickup on Sunday. We've eliminated that because that's an expensive overtime. So we're trying to reduce those overtimes as well, and other departments have been notified to try to limit their overtime as well. We've taken advantage of cooperative purchasing agreements. Those are basically opportunities for us to take advantage of goods and services that are pre-bid, so we get the lowest price available. We also have increased a lot of our bidding and quotes. We're more aggressive in searching out for the cheapest prices for anything that we're trying to do. We've increased utility efficiency through using NOPEC grants to improve our utility efficiency. We've also used technology and different software programs to reduce redundancy and increase efficiency. We're also looking at healthcare savings. Healthcare is one of our biggest costs, and we're looking at going possibly self-funding, which will save some money there as well. So those are some of the cost savings that we're looking at. Also, we're trying to increase some revenue. We can do that through economic development. We have new businesses on Pin Oak Parkway. In fact, since 2021, by the way, we have not offered any tax abatements. So everybody that comes in has not received that type of abatement of their taxes. We've had Valensil expand. All Pro Freight has expanded. Woodside Holdings has expanded. Indy Equipment is a new company that has come in. So we're still aggressively pursuing new revenue sources with our commercial development. But just to put this a little bit in perspective, I think we would all agree that if we brought in $10 million worth of new payroll, that would be a great thing, right? So if we had $10 million of payroll, just to keep in mind, that only brings in the city $150,000. So that's not going to, as you see the cost of some of the road work we have to do, while we will gladly accept that, it's not going to solve all our problems. So that's just a part of what we're trying to do to eliminate that. We're also looking at increasing some fees so that the people who use the service actually pays a greater portion of it. We've done that through recreation fee increases. We're looking at raising permit fees for building and engineering. We are actually on the very low end for most communities when it comes to the fees we charge, so we want to be somewhat in the middle and be respectful for our residents, but at the same time pass those costs on to where they need to go. And we're also looking at sharing administrative costs with Avon Lake Regional Water, and we're also looking at cities who utilize our municipal court, have them pay their fair share into the court. And all that will help reduce some of our expenses that we have. The other thing we do is we pursue grants and other revenue sources. So you'll see that number up there, $5,276,242 in grants have been received in recent, current, and pending funding. So these are things that have just either recently been done, are currently being done, or will be done in the near future. So that's $5.2 million worth of taxes we've not had to ask the public for because we've obtained grants for that. In addition to that, we've received another $3.3 million in no or low interest loans. And that's a great way to spread things out. If you have to bond out, bonding out costs money. These low interest loans that we've obtained, we can spread that cost out, and the time value of money benefits us in that kind of case. Some of the grants we've received, we talked about Walker Road Phase 6, $275,000, Walker Road Phase 5, $400,000, Alps, $419,000. Erie View, we're looking at securing a $150,000 grant there. Police and fire have had grants. NOPEC has given us $69,000. The power plant, we just applied for another $300,000 grant there. Through Public Works, we had $375,000 in grants. So we've been very aggressive in pursuing grants. We have sidewalks going in on Lake Road from Bay Village all the way to Sheffield Lake, and we have received $3.2 million in grant funding for that project. And then loans also for the Walker Road phases, again, totaling that $3.3 million. So actually, I'm going to turn this over to Finance Director Krosse again to talk about some of these other financial issues.
So now I'm going to present some numbers to you. And the point of this is to give you a snapshot of where we are budget-wise. And I'm going to start with funds. So city government, governmental funds are comprised of, the City of Avon Lake has 67 funds on the books. And this slide up here shows you that almost $17 million of that are city funds, city designated funds, and $35 million is Avon Lake Regional Water. Now, the big difference between those two funds are the governmental funds are the $17 million. Avon Lake Regional Water is an enterprise fund, so it operates as a business. And any excess revenue generated by regional water needs to be channeled back into that utility for the utility's infrastructure and operating costs. So there cannot be sharing of funds between governmental funds and enterprise funds. So sometimes questions are asked, well, I see this amount of money in this fund, say regional water, why can't you use that for the roads? Because the roads are a city project, a governmental project. It is not an enterprise project. And there are a few other funds I just want to point out because we see some questions being asked in the public. How did we purchase Erie View? That is another one of these $17 million funds, okay? It's called the Recreation Trust Fund, and it currently has, by the end of the year, it will have $500,000 in it. And that is how the city is paying for the former school. We're not taking out a loan, we're paying with it with designated dollars that cannot be used for any other purpose other than recreational land purchases. And there's also the paramedic fund that is supported by property taxes. So again, that can only be used for the paramedic fund. It was a voted property tax by the city that funds that, and it cannot be used for general fund purposes, only paramedic fund purposes. So I just wanted to point out a few of those funds and give you a sense that these funds are either directed by Ohio Revised Code or have been legislated by council for special purposes, and they have special sources of revenues. So then I want to talk about general fund just a little bit, because if you'll remember, I said that income tax is divided among those four funds: general fund, recreation, the debt service fund, and capital fund. So general fund, again, is the heartbeat of the city. That's where all services are provided. And this is just a snapshot to show you that income tax is 62% of the revenue that comes into general fund. Property taxes are 25% of that revenue. And this is just a 10-year snapshot of what revenue looks like in general fund. So back in 2016, we were around $14 million in total revenue. And again, the bulk of that was income tax and property tax, and the rest was fees, like general permitting fees, recreation fees, that type thing. For 2026, we are projecting $24.4 million in revenue coming in. And this is the expense portion of general fund. So personnel costs are 74%. And this is in line with most cities in Ohio. You would find that personnel costs are almost always their highest percentage of cost. Operating costs are 26% of general fund. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, we asked the departments to try and cut their operating expenses for 2026 budget, and they came back with almost $500,000 in savings. And this, again, this is a 10-year shot of general fund expense, and we were around $15 million in 2016, and for 2026, we are projecting $23.4 million. I would like to point out the spike that begins to happen in 2021, 2022, near the middle of the chart there. You see those numbers start to rise a little more rapidly. A decision was made at that time because of the growth of the city. We have grown 73%. We've grown from 15,000 residents up to 26,000 today over that 30-year span. And the decision was made to increase service personnel. The 6 firefighters that the mayor alluded to, 1.5 policemen, 6 public works folks, and then a few, others in other departments. But that was to provide better services for residents and to take better care of the city. And you can see there that green line is personnel costs, and that red line is the operating expenses. So you can see the relationship there between them. And then this is just a combination line for revenue and expense, and you can see how they are moving in tandem, because we do need to present a balanced budget to the county. And so we first generate with the departments a very collaborative budgeting process that we do. And again, a large percentage of that is personnel, so we're tied in by union contracts and that kind of thing, but the departments weigh in on their operating costs. So we start with the expense, and then we allocate the property tax and also the income tax and those fees on the revenue side. And this is just a quick picture I wanted to show you, so that income tax allocation that I've talked about that comes in. So the top line, the blue line, is the amount of income tax that is transferred into general fund. So you can see that rise from the general fund. It's similar to the general fund in revenue rise. And the red line is the debt payments. So there's a transfer done into the debt service fund, and the green line is recreation. But that purple line is capital improvement. So you can see how that line has gone up and down a little bit. And again, that would depend on what the expenses were for the year, but also what kind of income tax was coming in. But you can see that the growth of general fund, due to increased services and increased personnel, there has been an inverse decrease in the amount of dollars that are available for capital. And therefore, we have arrived at today the need for a dedicated capital fund to take care of our roads.
So you've heard the snapshot of the financial situation in our funds and revenues and expenses. Now I want to talk about why we need more money. And basically, we need to take care of our roads, which is our number one priority, because that's where we get the most complaints, and it's a major part of our foundation and infrastructure. So we engaged a group called Pavement Management Group to develop a comprehensive pavement management program. And this is a set of recommendations that is based upon comprehensive data and analysis, and it's very data-driven. So it kind of takes the politics out of deciding what roads we got to do and how we're going to do it, and we base it on data. So this will include the maintenance and rehabilitation and prioritization and budget planning. So the PMG report uses a scoring system called Pavement Condition Index. Our entire roadway system, again, 112 miles, has been evaluated under this set of criteria. And so our entire network has been evaluated. So if you live here in Avon Lake, your street was evaluated. The current average PCI score, and if you look to the right there, you'll see what conditions there are: excellent, good, fair, poor, failed. We are currently rated at 73 if you take all our roadways into account and average it. So that is in the good range. It's in the low good range, but that's currently where we are. So what we determined was that to maintain that rating of 73, to keep the roads in the current condition they are, it was determined that we would have to, let me back up just a second here, I don't want to get too far ahead. We would have to spend $4 million a year just to keep our rating at 73, to keep our roadways currently where they are. We required $4 million of capital per year. And as Finance Director Krosse indicated, we have $0 this year for any additional work. The repair methods is an important part of what we're trying to do. In the past, unfortunately, what we've had to do is if a road has completely failed, we will then take that road, we will renovate it completely and move on. The problem is we didn't do much in the way of maintenance. In other words, taking care of the roads that are in good shape. We want to maintain those roads in good shape so they don't deteriorate to the point where we have to dig up a road, because that, I'll show you in a little bit here, that's the most expensive way to spend our money. So what we have here is a repair method by PCI score. So consider like Lake Road, for example, relatively new road. It's probably rated in that 90 to 100 range, excellent condition. If it drops a little bit, the next thing we will do is do crack sealing. And that'll maintain that road for another 3, 4, 5 years, depending. And if we don't do crack sealing, that road will fail potentially 5 years sooner than we want it to. And that's a very cheap maintenance way of taking care of a road. You'll see other maintenance things. We have this rejuvenation. We have crack sealing, as you see here, the different repair methods. And as you go down the list of repair methods, the cost increases dramatically, and we'll show you a little bit of that. Partial depth repairs, mill and overlay. When you see Walker Road redone, that's called a mill and overlay. They mill the asphalt and they overlay a new asphalt on top of that. This map here, and by the way, all of this is available on our website, so I understand this is very hard to see. This map is on our website along with some other ones. So you can pick out your street. You'll see it's color-coded. If I go back here to a second and you look at the condition categories, those colors coordinate with this map. So the blue ones, again, are excellent, all the way down to the red ones, which are failing or poor. And so the whole city has been mapped out this way. And this will help determine how we're going to manage and maintain our roadway system. So using the PCI system allows the city to match the roadway and the strategy to keep that road in the best condition possible at the cheapest price. And you'll see that if we do maintenance over time, it reduces the need for the more expensive total renovation of our roadway system. So the higher PCI typically requires lower cost preventative treatments, and of course, the higher ones cost more extensive and costly repairs. And again, I mentioned this, the PMG recommends funding at a level of $4 million per year to keep that roadway at that score of 73 where we're currently at. So that's, again, how we came up with this 0.4% increase. We took the $4 million to keep our roadway network currently where it's at. We added in the other capital needs that we have relative to stormwater and other things. We came up with the fact that we needed about $6.5 million to maintain where we're at. And then when Finance Director Krosse put all that in, and we did a lot of variations on how to get to that $6.5 million, this is where we came up with a 0.4% increase that would apply to all employees, would get us to that level. So this is kind of a 5-year capital program as a summary. You'll see it across the top there is each year for the total of the 5 years. The top portion there is our roads and associated debt. And again, through council, it's been mandated that we spend at least minimum of 65% on the roadways. And you'll see as we go across the years, we're actually spending more than that each year just on the roadways. And then for stormwater and other things, we're mandated a maximum of 35%, and you see how that correlates. It goes down as we increase the roadway costs. So you can see how we're increasing spending each year, but we're always in that at least $4 million mark. This is a snapshot of 2027. If the issue were to pass, this is how money would be allocated next year for our roadways. You will see that it's a balance between maintenance, repair, and reconstruction, with a concentration, though, on maintenance to avoid the major deterioration which results from expensive reconstruction. So for example, in 2027, if you can see that, 20% of the budget would be spent on 78% of the roadways that we addressed. So 1/5 of all the money we're going to spend is going to take care of 78% of our roadway because that's a lower cost maintenance. Overall in 27, we would actually be touching 11.39% of the roadway, total roadway system in Avon Lake. So again, that is how we're allocating the different ways. You'll see that kind of that top pinkish is more of the maintenance, rejuvenation, crack sealing, partial depth repair. In the middle there, you'll see the overlay. That's where we grind off the pavement and reapply it. And at the bottom in the green is reconstruction. If you look at the cost per square yard, crack sealing, for example, $1.01 per square yard. A reconstruction of an asphalt street, $216.10 a square yard. We don't want to spend our money that way. We want to maintain our roads so we don't get to that point. So what we're then going to do is we're going to allocate different monies, and you'll see 20% is, which is not the maximum amount, I'm sorry, by percentage, but we're getting the most bang for our buck at that level by attacking more of the roadway square miles. And I'm going to turn this back over to Director Krosse so she can go into issue 13 and what it means to our taxpayers.
Okay, so issue 13, we would go from 1.5% to 1.9%. And for 5 years, so there's a limit to the number of years, and the city wants to show you that we can get this road program going and take care of these streets. For a household earning $100,000 in taxable city income, that equates to $400 per year or $33 per month. If this issue passes, the city has, council has passed legislation that we would stop collections of the 1.5 mil property tax that the city is currently levying. The city income tax does not apply to retirement income, Social Security income, pension income, annuities, 401ks, that type of thing. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit. A little known, well, kind of a fact that not everyone knows, is that 75% of Avon Lake residents work outside the city. And what that means is the city offers a 100% tax credit. So that 1.5% does not come to Avon Lake. It goes to wherever they work. So if you work in Cleveland and you're paying 2.5%, that 2.5% stays in Cleveland. Nothing comes back to Avon Lake. With issue 13, what we've proposed is the 0.4% additional increase would apply to all residents for earned income. So that means everyone who's using these roads will share in that cost. And that also includes residents working inside the city, residents working outside the city. Also, folks who come into Avon Lake to work, they will also be paying that additional amount, as will businesses. So everyone who's using our roads will be helping. This is a community effort. And this issue 13 will generate $6.6 million. And the mayor has discussed how that will be divided. And also, it will go into a dedicated fund. So we assure you these funds will go for road work and other capital needs. And we can rely less on the general fund to have to cover these capital costs. So again, there's this dedicated portion, and many cities have this dedicated piece to their income tax structure so that they know that those capital needs are going to be met. So the question has been asked, why are we doing this now? Well, if this issue were to pass in May, the city has legislated that we would discontinue collections on the 1.5 mil property tax. And this would happen effective January 1st of '27, along with the income tax increase. So the county has a deadline of October for the city to file what property taxes we will be collecting. So if this were not to pass in May, go to the ballot in November, the city would still stop collections of that 1.5 mil property tax, but it could not take effect until January of 2028. So we just wanted you to be aware of that timing and what could happen depending if this issue were to pass and at what time that passes. And then the question has been asked, why are we even considering discontinuing collection of this property tax? Well, we provided over 12 scenarios to council to evaluate what this income tax change was going to look like. And we looked at various increases. We looked at decreasing the credit. We looked at all sorts of combinations of those. But we wanted to somehow soften the impact of this income tax increase. And so the way to do that was to offer to stop collections on that 1.5 mil property tax. This is a tool that has been used in other cities in Ohio. It's been successful. It's provided property tax relief in some form to property owners in their community. So we hope, we want to stress that we've done this in consideration of you. But also I want to talk a little bit about that tax credit. Let's see here. If it's on the next slide. What's happening here? Okay. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Oh. No, I guess that was it. Okay, yes, sorry. And so now we'll entertain questions.
Yeah. So again, we just ask if you have questions, please come up to the mic because we want our folks at home to be able to hear the question. If you could limit to one question for now, if we get through that, then we'll entertain, somebody coming up for another question. I'm sure we didn't provide all the information that answers all your questions, so feel free to come up, and we're happy to answer the questions. If we can't, we will certainly get you the answers. So any questions, feel free. Come on. And we'll be tag teaming here.
Just one question on that debt service line. That's increased from $1 million to $2.6 million over the period that was on that slide, if I remember correctly. $1 million at the beginning of the slide to $2.6 million.
Yes.
That's the amount the city pays just as the interest expense on the debt?
Interest, expense, and principal. It's the entire debt service.
Okay, I see. So
Yeah.
that debt comes about when the city's short of funds to do something. They go to the markets, the bond markets and that? And
Correct.
borrows.
So the majority of our debt is related to roads, okay? Part of the debt is related to larger vehicles like a few fire trucks that have been purchased recently.
Okay.
And that's done for cash flow reasons
Right.
as well, so.
Okay.
Yes.
So really, that whatever the needs are of the city, if they're specific or immediate enough, you go to the bond market.
That's
right?
correct. That's
And,
correct. Either that or the grants.
Right.
Or Ohio Public Works Commission provides interest-free loans, which
Right.
we take advantage of almost every year.
Okay,
So-
are there any plans to reduce that expense? Or is that just going to keep going? It starts at $1 million, it's up to $2.6 million. Do you know now? And maybe this isn't a fair question. Will that keep going, $3 million next year, $4 million next year, or you can't say at this
Yes,
point?
it depends on the road project that we would take on. Currently, we have a road project going on in conjunction with Avon Lake Regional Water. It's called a Water Bundle Project that affects a number of roads, but also it's affecting the electric bridge. It's taking
Okay.
care of that, and then, of course, regional waters needs, okay? That will add to the debt service, but that doesn't begin until, I think, 2030.
Okay, is it
Yes.
possible the 4,400,000 from the income tax will decrease that debt service expense, the 2,600,000? If it goes through, it's passed, would a portion of that be used to reduce that debt service?
It would be used to help meet that debt service.
meet it, not
To
reduce
meet
it.
it,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
Yes, if we had the opportunity to repay the debt early, we would certainly do that.
Right, right.
So it would,
Okay.
Thank you. I want to make
Okay,
sure we get
I'm
other
sorry.
people.
All right.
I want to add really quick, it was a good question about debt. As she indicated, we've had to buy some fire trucks, ladder truck, engine, and rescue vehicle. Those three combined have been almost $5 million. And they weren't just bought because we wanted to. For example, our ladder truck was 30 years old. It's 5 years past when it should have been replaced, and it takes 5 years to get it. So some of that debt that we're talking about here is the fire vehicles as well, necessary safety equipment. But that does go into that portion as well. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Question on the 1.5. So the 1.5 mil that you guys are going to be eliminating, okay? What does that mean to the average homeowner, right? So if I have a $300,000 mortgage, you're asking for, let's say, I think from your equivalent to 100,000 is $400, right? So you're asking for 400. So as a $300,000 home evaluation that it got kicked up from Lorraine County, what does that mean for me?
sure. So it's $23 per 100,000 of valuation. So in your case, it would be 23 times 3, 69, $70.
Okay, so
And-
you're asking for 400.
Yeah,
Right? Well, more from me, right? So you're asking for that extra amount, but you're giving me, and I want to, like, just be clarified, because you seem like you're trying to gift wrap it, right? For the retirees and that voting base, right? Because they're the ones that are going to benefit from the actual 1.5 elimination, right? And that's good for them, and they should be, right? But it seems to negatively affect everybody that's still making an income, right? And and this 4%, right, is going to raise on me every year, because every year I assume to get a pay bump in my job.
Sure,
So
sure.
even though that may only last for 4 or 5 years with the increasing wages and everything else, that 4% in the first year may turn to 5.5% the next year, right? May turn to 6 or 7%
Yes.
in the next year.
Right.
So so the way that the tax system works, and it's not just you guys, it's
No, right.
the whole base, you don't take that into consideration. And
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people think about it that
Right,
way.
right.
So, and I have a bunch of other stuff, but I'll let people
Yeah,
get
let's
to
let
their.
somebody else get out. And I want to go back to that property question, too. We all know that through the school levies, our property taxes have went up considerably. Mine did, I'm sure yours did. And we've heard the legislation is talking about, reducing property taxes as well. And, none of us want to pay that kind of property tax. This is a way to give back to the entire community. And certainly it benefits seniors maybe more than people that are paying income tax, such as yourself. But it's just a tool to provide everybody a little bit of relief on their property taxes is what it comes down to. Yes, ma'am.
So will my taxes on my house go back to where they were, this pre-1.5?
The 1.5 mil property tax was voted in 2000. So, and it's been renewed every 5 years. So,
Like 6 months ago, my property taxes skyrocketed for
yeah.
no reason.
That's because of the increase for the schools that was
So,
voted in?
For the schools?
valuation of everybody's
Yes.
property.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have no children, and why am I paying for all this school stuff?
Right,
Why aren't the parents chipping in?
right. Well, the parents pay the property tax as well if they,
But if you have no children, you should not be required
Yeah.
to continually pay all this. So my
Yeah.
taxes are not going to go down to where they were 6 months ago.
Not property taxes, but keep in mind, again, we're two different entities. We're not involved
I
with the
know.
schools. Schools are not involved with us, separate governmental entities. So their costs, you'd have to talk with them about all that. We're trying to help provide a little relief, though, for that increase that you saw because of valuations and the property tax from the schools.
Okay, so I'm still not understanding what you're going to give me if I vote for road improvements.
You're going to see,
When
what is
we
it,
see
$24 per 100,000?
All these.
Decrease.
All these new developments, where's all that money going?
I'll let you answer that one.
Everything's
New
getting
development property tax.
built.
And then we're going to have you, so we can get somebody else. on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so new development, the city would see an increase in property tax revenue that comes in, but I real quick want to share, if I can get to the end of this. You may have seen this dollar bill before, but out of $1 of property tax, the city of Avon Lake is purple. We realize 12 cents for every $1 that you pay in property tax. The schools receive 61 cents, the county receives 19 cents, so it's all split up. So that 12 cents on the dollar will go down a little bit. I mean, we're doing what we can. We know this is a hard ask with this income tax, so.
Just had a quick clarification. So as far as someone's on a fixed income, that the Social Security and pensions are not going to be affected. However, someone that is working, that will be. What about investment income? I think that's something that was not included in here that I think.
So investment income is not taxable for city income tax purposes.
Right, I just wanted to bring that up so that everybody could understand.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is this thing on?
Is it?
Is this on? Yeah. Okay. So for the fixed income retirees, so does that include the required minimum distributions that we have to take? Are those taxed?
They are not taxed for local income tax
Okay.
reasons.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So can you provide a direct answer on how it's fair for current working people to essentially have a higher tax burden while others have a lower tax burden?
I mean, I'd give it a shot. It's the nature of income tax, right, is based upon income earned. So the more income you earn, the more you're going to pay. And
So
that's
it's
as-
also a decision to do an income tax as opposed to increase property tax then, which could be more fair across, current residents.
Well, the schools, as you saw in this dollar bill here, take up the majority of that. We would have to do a really large property tax to bring in $6.6 million. And there's really no appetite right now for anybody to pass any property tax increase. We know that. We also know we have services we want to provide. We only have a couple mechanisms to raise revenue: income tax, property tax. Property tax would not pass, we understand that. Income tax is our only other revenue source, so we're going to have to raise income tax to get those dollars. Now, understanding, and I appreciate everybody's concern because, my taxes are going to go up, other people's taxes are going to go up. We're just trying to provide you all the accurate information so you can make an educated decision based upon your own personal circumstances. But we have no other choice. Similarly with the schools, their main source of revenue is property tax. They have no other way to get revenue to run their schools, so they ask for property tax. Ours happens to be income tax. So if we want to increase revenue to provide the equal services, we have to ask for more.
So why not increase the income tax less and then not cut property taxes? That seems a little more fair and in the middle.
We could have gone that way. As I said, we looked at a number of different scenarios, and the net revenue that we will see is that $6.5 million that's brought in by this increase, less that 1.1, so $5.5 million. It still would have been, I would have to check my charts to see what sort of increase that would have been. We could have done that.
So essentially, it's
We
just
could have
entirely
gone
for the
and-
passage, which is effectively just a bribe to local retired people.
I don't think it's a bribe, it's a benefit to them, certainly, but let me go back
It's-
to your original
And
question.
remember, it's a benefit to all homeowners.
Yeah, everybody benefits. I want to ask
So-
you a question, though,
Yeah.
because the $6.6 million that will be coming from this income tax increase, if it's passed, goes to the roadways. The property tax went to general fund. So we're not asking to increase general fund spending by reducing that. That doesn't go directly to the roads. We needed the $6.6 million for roadways. And so to get to that level, that's where the .4 comes in, right? So we would have had to transfer additional money out of general fund if we kept the property tax to go into that. And typically, that's very difficult to do. As she mentioned, most cities have a dedicated capital improvement fund. We don't have one in the city. We're going to be creating one with this so that we have a guaranteed capital improvement fund. And I'm going to let somebody else come up. Thank you for your questions. Good questions.
Make a race for the microphone. Hey, everybody. Good evening. Hey, we're talking about the roads, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So can you give some insight as to how you charge people who do use the roadways? Of course, we all use the roadways. We live here. I'm thinking more of the heavy trucks. Lake Road is a major thoroughfare. 83 or more are direct routes to the highway. I live off of 83, and I see a constant stream of dump trucks, 18-wheelers. So can you give some insight as to how they're going to pay, or do they pay their share?
So 83 and Lake are both state routes.
Okay.
So when those are redone, we get state dollars to renovate those. Both Lake Road, we had a huge ODOT grant for that. The same with 83 when it was done however many years ago.
Okay.
So that's the way that when the trucks are using, and they can only use those roads unless they're obviously making deliveries.
Yeah.
So that's how those are contributed to by the state for renovation.
Okay.
We get money from them.
If I could just slip one more in, you mentioned that people who work in Avon Lake would also be paying. How do you track that for people who are driving in? I think you may have mentioned in your presentation.
The employers withhold
Okay, so
the
that's just
tax.
part of that
Yes.
calculation.
Yes.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention another way that these trucks that are using the road and that, if they are city businesses pay income tax.
Okay.
So that income tax is allocated.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
one other, if I could, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we answer your, so there's also registration fees, and there's
Right.
also gasoline tax. We get
Okay.
a very small portion of that back to the city, and that's dedicated to the roads as well.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate all the questions. Good stuff.
Having just renewed my car license tag, there's an Avon Lake tax, $10 on each license tag. Doing further research, it is allocated for roads and capital improvements. $250,000 minimum you're getting per year from Avon, from that tax. Where does that play into this up here?
Okay, so that goes into one of those dedicated governmental funds. It's called the Street Fund, and that has always been used for maintenance of streets such as plowing and, minor repairs and sometimes purchases of some equipment that might be needed for tarring the road or that type thing. So that is where that goes. Yeah, thank you.
And again, just to elaborate on that while somebody else comes up, we have the ability by council action to increase those fees in increments of $5, and we've chosen not to do that. It wouldn't raise a significant amount of money, and again, we don't want to just inundate people with new fees and taxes. Any other questions? Some good questions. Let me get somebody else who hasn't asked a question yet.
Actually, I just have a question about other sources of revenue. So if we were thinking creatively, if we were to talk to the county for a 1 penny increase in the sales tax and had a negotiation with the commissioners, that would bring in about $1.7 million if there was a 30 to 40% municipal return to get that revenue share. But that would happen in perpetuity over the next, 50 years, for instance. That would generate a lot more revenue from this, and you could actually decrease the amount of income. Has that been considered?
Go ahead.
So I think it was 70 or 80% voted no on the sales tax increase for the county. Now they're looking at between a $7 and $11 million deficit because of that. So the county is, we talked about, we're funded mostly by income tax. The state is funded in various ways. Schools are funded by property tax. Counties are funded by sales tax. So they sought a sales tax to increase their revenue, and it was shot down by a vast majority. So we're not going to be able to negotiate with them of any sales tax coming our way just because they're running a major deficit as it stands. But there's always options available when the money is available, certainly.
You know, do builders ever get charged revenue? I live on Danbury. I'm looking right at it. It's fair, but we see big trucks going back and forth all day long on our street, and they're building for Legacy. So my question is, Legacy's roads are all in great shape, but now ours are not. And I'm wondering what the responsibility is of the developers as far as that goes.
I'll try to answer that the best I can. Obviously, trucks create more wear and tear than our vehicles do, but our roads are also built for those weights, and we can't restrict access, although we have in certain circumstances. For example, off of Lear Road, we have a lot of development going on. There's 2 roads that run directly off of Lear Road that we have prohibited traffic on by cooperation, basically, and they have to come into their own area. But typically, you look at garbage trucks. Those are very heavy weighted. Garbage trucks put a wear and tear on our roads. There's no way around it. But that's what the roads are there for. We can't charge a use tax. We can't say, well, you've driven this many miles with this weight, we're going to charge. That's just not feasible. So it kind of just gets lumped all together. It's hard to pull out that data and charge them accordingly. It's just very difficult to do. But I understand your question. They do have more wear and tear.
Well, I just found, I will add one more statement. Within Legacy, there are signs all over that say no trucks allowed. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, no trucks allowed here, no trucks allowed there. But they cut through Danbury to get back there.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be using off of Jaycox, but I can't remember exactly where. But we do have our police department. They monitor when it's appropriate. But again, those are not enforceable ordinances for us. We can just advise the folks that they can't use those. And usually those are in cooperation with the developers. Any other questions? Mr. Phillips?
Gerald Phillips. I'm an Avon Lake resident, and I'm also a CPA. I'd like to go back to the chart, Beth, where you show the allocations of the income tax.
That was after. Was it after?
Yeah,
Right there.
that's the one.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, your ordinances require 69% to go in the general fund. That's the top line. And your ordinance also requires 16% to go into the capital improvement, which is that second line. And then 12% goes into the bond, which is the red, and 3% goes into the recreation fund, which is the green. But if you look at the capital improvement fund for 24, 25, and 26, it's going down when you're supposed to put 16% in that fund. And 16% of $19 million in 2025 would be 2.5. 16% of 17.8 would be almost 2.5, and 26, you're showing 0. Now tell me why this chart is inconsistent with the financial statement certified by the state auditor in the footnote that says you're required by ordinance to spend that money and put it in the fund. Thank you.
That ordinance, I would need to see that ordinance. That's no longer, that was replaced, that ordinance. At one time, a number of years ago, there was that requirement.
Well, this financial statement report is dated November 24th, 2025. I would suspect that that's very current.
And that may have been the percentage that was allocated in that year.
Well, it doesn't say less
But-
than, doesn't say greater than, it says 16%, specifically a percentage. So why does that second line go down? And that's the capital improvements, which you're asking us to fund by this income tax increase.
Yeah. Well,
Okay? Explain that to me. I'm a CPA. Maybe I'm misconstruing it, okay? CPA for 50 years.
yes.
I'm gonna call on, if I could, maybe our council members who have been here longer than I have. I'm not familiar with an ordinance that we have that allocates our income tax fund to certain percentages. And I'm wondering if our council folks, Jennifer, are you aware?
There was one in place at one time.
Yeah, long before us.
I need to see what he said now.
Yeah.
At one point in time, we did have ordinances on the books that stated that we also had to pay into Avon Lake Regional Water a certain percentage. And a number of years ago, those were changed. And I'd have to see the ordinance, Mr. Phillips, to see exactly what you're referring to. But those ordinances have been changed, as you have said. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what I was anticipating. Mr. Phillips, if you want to give us the ordinance number, we're happy to take a look at it and get back to it.
Records request, and I'll probably get it in a week or two.
Well, if you supply us with the ordinance you're referring to, we were happy to look. Okay.
Okay? You should know the number.
We have,
Then I get a response.
we have
give me a
hundreds of
time.
ordinances. It's very hard for me to keep up with all of
You
those,
just
but,
call me all the time on information.
well, that's, any other questions? Any other questions? You can come back up. Oh, then we'll let this gentleman come back up again.
So, question about coming to the general public for this percentage, right? I'm not sure how it is, but I know we give tax incentives to our local businesses in the form of, I think it's like 35%, right, of tax incentives for new businesses, or for businesses for their payroll taxes, right? Isn't that on the, am I mistaken in that?
So, no, you're somewhat correct. So we have a incentive program, it's called a Job Growth Incentive Program.
Okay.
So if year over year, a business increases their income tax revenue, we provide them a certain percentage of that back as an incentive for them to continue working in Avon Lake. We may be in the last year of that program, so we
Okay.
are currently analyzing that and its cost effectiveness. We have it in place for the tax year '25, which means in '26 we'll be doing it, but we're also looking at that very closely, rescinding that and going to a different method.
So is it a possibility that next year that you eliminate that and you increase your tax, your income from the tax base anyway?
It probably costs us in the realm of $140,000, $150,000. So if we eliminated it completely, that $150,000 would go into our general fund.
Okay, so, and here's the other question that I have on top of that. So we have industries, right? And those industries that are in the city are major trucking companies and whatever else, right? So they're using it, including Waste Management, who we also pay out of our own pocket to come pick up the trash, right? Why not go to them for a tax increase? Why not go to our major industries and ask them for a tax, for the increase instead of the public? Because they're the ones that are doing the majority of the damage. Because like me, I drive a vehicle that is maybe a ton, but the majority of damage is from the roads. After living out in California and knowing, what some of the smaller communities out there, like the bigger trucking industry is what causes like 99% of the damage.
Right.
So why not just go to them and say, hey, we need to increase you guys 3%, and then maybe come back to us for, for whatever.
So this income tax does apply to businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. And the state of Ohio, you cannot have different levels of taxation. It is a uniform tax for local income tax reasons.
Okay.
Everyone would have to be at the same income tax rate.
Okay.
Yes.
Great questions, everybody. Really appreciate that. Any others? Sir, I think you had a question?
How you doing?
Good.
You mentioned you got a sidewalk project coming up, is that a government grant?
Yeah, so we have a sidewalk program on Lake Road. We're going to have sidewalks on both the north and south side of Lake Road from
You
Bay
are
to
including the north side?
north side and south side, so both sides of the street, all the way from Bay to Sheffield Lake, and that is a state program. We're getting $3.2 million grant for that
Yeah, I know
project.
that. When does that start and when is the completion date?
So it's already started. We have to do land acquisition, right-of-way acquisition. We're in that current phase. The actual construction you'll see, you may see that beginning in the fall on the east side, and then it'll be another year or so before we do the west side. It was divided into 2 phases.
Oh, you.
83,
between the east and
83
west.
east and then 83 west, 2
But
phases.
the north side's going to be sidewalks also?
Correct, that is correct.
Okay. When did they change sidewalks to 5 feet?
I don't know if I have.
And why?
I don't know if I have an answer for that one. I might have to get back to you on that, certainly.
Sidewalks always been 4 foot.
Yeah.
It's ADA accessibility, it's in the AICC, I think, yeah, it's for ADA.
I know other cities, they mandate 5 all over the place. We have not
No.
done that here. Bay Village is all 5 foot.
Better get your tape measure out.
Oh, I did, actually, not to say, I actually walked every mile of sidewalk in Bay when I was working for
You
Bay
did?
as part of the sidewalk program, and I marked all those blocks that had to be replaced, right? So, yeah, very familiar, unfortunately, with walking Bay Village sidewalks.
Okay.
But ours has been 4, but,
4 is normally a standard
Yeah.
sidewalk width.
so, that's where we're at. But, yeah, we do have federal funding for that project.
Okay,
Thank you. Mhm. Sure. Do any of our students from Avon Lake High School have any questions? You guys are probably really excited about all this, I understand. You're just like, this is fantastic, right? Do you have any questions? We're happy to entertain any you have. No takers, huh? Okay, well, if you change your mind, please come on up. Hello.
For people that don't know me. So I was here yesterday, and I think my only biggest concern is that 35% per, if you guys looked at the law, or the bill, or the levy, it says right here, it says, the purpose of this levy is for police, fire, street maintenance, parks and recs, and services commencing with the tax year 2026, collection year 2027. So, they basically states maintaining, repairing, improving city streets by reconstructing, widening, grading, draining, curbing, paving, et cetera, and then number 2, it could pay for storm sewers, related drainage improvements, installing traffic signals and signalizations, acquiring vehicles and equipment for city departments and functionings. So, you did your homework.
Try to.
Yes, so 65% will go to the streets, and 35, maximum of 35 can go towards sewers, equipment, stuff like that. And I remember you seeing a slide prior to when you guys were talking about 30 minutes ago. It said about 6.8 million will go to vehicles. Thank you. Oh, 6.3, sorry, I was off by 5. So with that being stated, I would feel a lot better if 100% actually went to the roads and sewers instead of us purchasing vehicles and equipment. Like I stated before with the service department, you guys contract out majority of your work with your streets and stuff like that. Or if you guys don't, I see your street department from the service workers out there 5 days to fix a couple potholes. So that's my only despairing thing I would say with all of this. Can you turn my phone off? So that I would say if it was 100% went to the roads, I would be okay, but I don't like the associated debt and vehicles. I don't like paying for vehicles. I don't like doing any of that as a taxpayer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can address that a little bit further since we talked yesterday as well. So the vehicles, for example, we have leases for our public works vehicles. So we have everything in public works from an F-150 up to, the large plow trucks and front-end loaders and all of that. Some of that we buy, some of that we lease. And the cost of that is built into this. So these are vehicles used for the roadways, for the most part, not all of it, but most of it is. If we did not include that in there, we don't have enough money in the general fund to even pay for the obligations we currently have on the vehicles we have now. So if we did not include that in there, we would be unable to make the payments on the vehicles used to take care of the roads. And the other part was so that was the vehicles. What was the other part of your question? I'm
Well,
sorry.
the associated debt, and then
Associated debt is of course, if we bond out for a road project, then we have to pay that debt back. That would be the associated debt relative to that cost. And I always use this analogy because it just works for me, and hopefully it works for you. It's like we as a city have a platinum black credit card, right? So we can go and charge and buy anything because we have a low debt ratio. The problem is we got to make payments on that purchase. The problem we have now is we don't have the money to make those payments. So while we have debt capacity, we don't have the ability to pay those debts off right now unless we have something like this, which is dedicated source for it.
So I did read the ORCs today, because I did some of my research, in regards to, like, the fire truck. It's $2.2 million, I believe. You guys purchased it in 2023 at 5% interest rate, and you guys will receive it in 2028. But with that being stated, you guys could refinance it within this 5-year thing and pay it off with the vehicles for all departments. So if I knew why or what vehicles were being purchased within this 5 years, I would be more proactive to back you guys up. But with vehicles just being very broad, Parks and Rec being very broad, and all other equipment being very, very broad,
I would say we'd be very happy. You can come on and talk to Beth and I. We'd be happy to go over every vehicle if you'd like. We're being completely
Yeah.
transparent. We understand we have questions. We're happy to answer them. I don't want to do that now.
No.
But I will say that vehicles are a necessary tool for us to get our jobs done, whether it's fire. And again, I talked about that $2.2 million ladder truck you're talking about. We ordered several years ago. We're going to get by the end of this year, hopefully. Was already out of date. We had to buy a new one. We bonded that out because we don't have $2.2 million lying around. You have to bond those kind of things out.
It's a 2016, if I believe, truck, if I believe.
I'm sorry, what?
2016 or 2015? It
For
was-
what?
For the fire truck.
Not that one. That ladder truck is 30 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, we're happy to do that. I don't want to do that right now, but
No,
happy
I'm
to.
okay with it.
You're welcome to come
But
in. We'll
no,
set
I
up an
just-
appointment and talk
Go
about
ahead.
that.
I want to just clear up, there is detail backing every single one of those lines up, and I'm happy to share that with you.
Okay.
We just didn't want to overwhelm folks, but anyone who wants that detail, it was presented to council, it was built with a lot of
Could you
detail.
guys, like,
So,
put that online so it's more transparent for the citizens of Avon Lake? So then they can have easy access to it? Does that make sense? Or
We can do that.
we need to do a public records
Sure.
request?
No, you don't need a public
Okay.
record, but it's all public record. We have, Mr. Rua here has put a lot of information out there. We also understand we don't want to overwhelm people with information where it's so hard to find. But if there's something people want out there, for example, this chart, I believe, is on there. This chart is on there. The maps that we have talked about, these are
We have
on there.
3 maps, yeah.
Those are all on there. So we're trying to be very transparent. It's just certain people want certain information, and maybe nobody else is interested. So we got to be just cognizant of the fact, I know you're very detail-oriented, I get it. So that's why we're happy to sit down with you and go over
Yeah,
that.
and no, and I know I was asked that question yesterday about Avondale. That's a huge road in Avon Lake that's in the red.
That's
and
definitely in the
with 2
red.
residents on it, and I would say 47% is owned by the City of Avon Lake, and about 8% was owned by, private residents, and the rest of it's owned by the electric company. Again, I don't want to see, $24 million going to a road with 2 residents where you have another road, Belmar, with 100 residents.
That's why this is just a snapshot of the conditions of the road. That doesn't mean, and again, it doesn't mean we're going to go in reverse order and do all the reds first. Again, we're actually going to do somewhat the opposite. We're going to spend most of our money maintaining the roads that are in good condition as we slowly attack those that have to be replaced. And as we look at those, we take into account the amount of traffic, how many people are affected, how much is it going to cost. That all goes into the formula when we decide every year a budget, present it to council on how we're going to go forward with roads. Council may say, we may say, well, we want to do this road, and they'll say, nope, we want this road done. Okay, we're
Well,
fine.
I did have one more question. 'cause
Let
I
me
said
see if
some-
anybody
okay.
else, because you've been here for a while, no offense, but
No,
I just
no.
want to make sure that, are there any other questions from anybody? Mr. Zimmerman?
I'll wait till she's done if you don't.
Well, okay, is there any,
How long are you going to continue tonight?
I only have one more question.
we got another 15 minutes.
Okay.
So in your report, it said there were 6 roads that were failed that need to be ripped and replaced. Do you know those 6 roads that was mentioned in here, that there were 6 roads? I believe it's actually underneath one of the maps, it stated, or I can go get my paperwork. Do you got that, Phillips?
There are some of the roads that you see in red above Lake Road that have already been done under the bundle project, so.
Yeah, there was 4 roads, like Canterbury, North Point, something, another.
Yeah, those have been taken care of and will be taken care of this year. Those will be done. I believe, I don't have the exact list in front of me, but again, if you looked at that 27 right here, where you see, we're not going to be doing any reconstruction of any streets in 27.
Okay.
So we don't have the money. So as we get to 28 and we start looking at all the roadways, we will reevaluate them then, because that'll be 2 years later. As we go over the budget, we'll reevaluate the conditions of the roadways, and then we will, in conjunction with council, choose which roadways we want to go
So
forward with.
when you reevaluate, do you have to pay another consultant then?
They,
that money?
we have a program with them, they do it every year, half the city every year. And then we, myself, our engineer and public works director, in fact, we're going to do this at the end of the month, we drive every street with the map, and we do an observation evaluation in addition to what they've done.
So what happens when you hire a new engineer for the city of Avon Lake? Do you have to redo this then again?
No,
Or
no,
just-
it's a program. Nope,
Okay.
nope, we do not.
Just some questions.
No, very good, thank you.
Anybody else?
Are you planning on taking the last 15 minutes?
You know, if I had 15 minutes, I'd use them all. I've been known to do that.
No, I don't believe that,
Thank you
no.
for giving me time. William Zimmerman. So, one of the things that was stated earlier was about how we've got to this place. Some of it was that we've made several hirings. A lot of these people are making over $100,000 a year. And from my standpoint, the previous administrations didn't help, partly because city council would say, we're running out of money for the budget and everything, we're going to kick this process down the road for another year. So his predecessor was part of the cause, because the council then, which some of the people are here, would ignore the facts and would say, look, we'll put it into next year's budget and move it along. Casey Zuber, who was the finance chair, warned us about this a few years ago and said that we're going down this road, we're not going to have enough money. Unfortunately, we didn't heed his advice, and we've moved on. The only way that we're going to find, I believe, a solution to these problems is to come up with an alternative. The taxing of the income can generate the most money. That's why I believe this is the thought of going forward. Like you said before, the license plate stuff and things of that nature doesn't generate enough money. So the only thing we can do is try to come up with an idea to do that. And this is their attempt at trying to fix that. Now, as citizens, we have the right to say no. And I believe you should say no. It could be another length of time, because we all know come November, it'll be on the ballot again. Because they need the money, there's no doubt. The problem is, I don't know what the right solution is personally. My problem is some of the people are overpaid. My question to you, Mayor.
I was just going to ask you, is there a question somewhere?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've been watching too many attorney shows. Anyhow. So my question to you is, you had a salary of $100,000. They voted you a new salary. What's your new salary?
So that came out of a charter review committee. I just want to give everybody the background.
I went to those committee meetings
You sure
every
did.
time.
So the Charter Review Committee evaluated the mayor's salary, felt it was low, and I know that Mayor Zilka for many years was complaining about the salary because it's hard to attract So it went from 90-something thousand to 125,000. I didn't give myself a raise.
I
It's only
understand that.
council. It's fixed. I don't get an increase every year. It's fixed for that time period.
I understand all that. My point to the matter is, these are public servants. Should we pay them all 125 or more to work for the city? Is that where some of the money goes? Is that how we've lost some of these things? I just wonder if there's a way to, how about if they took a freeze for a year instead of a 3% increase across the board to try to help us fix our financial despair?
So
Thank you for your time.
Sure. Most of our salaries are, well, 70% is salary benefit based. Most of our employees are union employees, which means that they are paid per a collective bargaining agreement, which is negotiated every third year or so. And those salaries are negotiated through that process. And that's where you came up. And we actually had a 3% increase across the board for our collective bargaining agreements, which by today's standards and what currently people are getting, because I just analyzed the CERB report, which is the statewide, 3% is a good deal. So I would say that we actually struck a pretty good deal with our negotiations. The fact is, when negotiations happen, they look at all the surrounding cities, they look at prevailing wages, and that becomes the argument. And so we have to be competitive, and that's where we are. We're not the highest, we're not the lowest, but we're competitive. And unfortunately, inflationary pressures have caused these salaries to go up, not just publicly, but privately. And that's unfortunately where we're at. So hopefully that helps. Any other questions? No high school takers? I didn't know if we scared you away. No? All right. Does the teacher have any questions? No, sir? Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate that everybody got an opportunity to hear the answers. Thank you.